Hello and welcome to your Mining Disrupt News Surge for Monday, March 18th, 2024. As always, everything that you hear from me on this channel is for entertainment and education purposes only. Please do not take anything I say as financial advice. You should be the only one doing due diligence in that arena or going to somebody that you actually trust. You can still get tickets to Mining Disrupt Miami happening in, Miami. You can get that right there. Scan that QR code right there. Happening June 24th through the 26th. It'll be toasty. Bring your trunks. Bring your questions. There will be miners aplenty. And also, Ted Cruz will be there. This is a post from Mining Disrupt over on X. Announcing Speaker Ted Cruz, United States Senator. Learn from some of the most prominent speakers from the mining industry at the world's largest Bitcoin B2B and Bitcoin mining conference and expo. Join us June 24th through the 26th this year. Buy your tickets now. Okay, before we get into today's topic, let's jump over to the numbers. We're over on timechaincalendar.com looking at a Bitcoin price of $67,998. Just dropped under 68,000. It's been hovering in the upper 60s for the last few days here. Right now, your $1 will get you 1,471 sats. We are just under a little bit under 5,000 blocks to go to the halving. 4,896 blocks to go, and that puts us on an estimated halving date and time of 4/20, April 20th at 10:13 in the morning. That's, I guess, Eastern time. It says it right there in the very, very tippity top here. 33 days, almost 34 days to go. We are looking at blocks coming in a little bit slower than we would like. 10 minutes and 21 seconds. That means the next difficulty adjustment in 1,536 blocks will be a downward shift of 3.2%. If you wouldn't mind, take a moment right now to like and subscribe. That helps out a lot, but what helps even more is if you tune in, stay tuned in, keep on tuning in, keep your tune here for the entirety of the video. That tells YouTube, the algorithm, that this video was liked enough to be watched for the entirety of it. They value that to some degree. I think they weigh it pretty heavily, that if you sit there and listen or actively watch. I don't think you have to actively watch, but as long as the video plays for the entirety, that's a good thing. User or viewer retention is valued quite highly. And beyond that, if you share the video to people, then that will also help. On that note, I want to be a source of education to some extent here, learning about Bitcoin, answering questions. If you have questions, please post your questions, put them in the comments, and I will do my absolute best to answer those questions so that you do have the ability to go out and go, here's what Dell says. This is a different way to look at it. All right, with that out of the way, let's get into the bulk of today's video. We're talking about building and tech bros versus people that build with their real hands and how Bitcoin fits into all of this. And I've got a couple things at the very end that I want you to, it's not at the very end, closing ideas that I want you to really ponder. Really think about these two things. All right, here we go. Today is going to be a little bit of a rant. I'm not going to go quite as long as I did last week. I'm going to see how it goes. But I want you to think about the two things that I talk about at the end of this video. I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is because I'm going to kind of ramble and lead my way there. We're going to meander around. We're going to get there. To be perfectly honest, here's a little sneak peek into how I do this sometimes is I already recorded all this stuff. So now I can talk about what I already talked about. But for you, it looks like I'm foretelling the future and I'm kind of giving you a preamble about what's to come. But for me, it already came. It's in the past. But for you, it's in the future. Or maybe it should be that way. I don't know. Whatever. You get what I'm saying. So I'm going to be talking about two things, but I already talked about the two things. I will be talking about two things. And I want you to pay attention to what those two things are. All right, it's coming up, but it's already in the past. Whoa, it's both at the same time. Let's get into it. This is something that I have thought about for a while. Not this exactly, but this tweet ties into something that I definitely have thought about, and I'll get into that once I read the tweet. The tweet is from @BitcoinFool. Work a normal job and save in Bitcoin, and you will outperform virtually every top doctor, hedge fund manager, and lawyer. You can even outperform your boss at work. It's absurd, really. Well, it really depends on who your boss at work is, but that would be extremely easy in some scenarios, and then other times it'd be quite hard. If your boss at work is, say, Michael Saylor or Larry Fink, it might be a little bit challenging to outperform them. And the idea that I have thought about for a while, and I guess it's more an idea that has upset me and bothered me, is the people that work in the tech industry. And I'm not saying all of them, but as far as I can tell, the vast majority of individuals that work in the tech industry aren't really, how do I say this? They're not really doing anything of value. They really aren't. And you can say, oh, I have this job or I do this. And look, let's be honest. Let's really look at what somebody in the tech industry does. A lot of the time, they're working at a startup with the hopes of being purchased by a larger entity, your Google, your Facebook, your Microsoft, whatever. I know a place, and I had personal interactions with a startup company. And this company went belly up because it was not run like a business. And from talking to multiple people and learning that this is how most, or basically all startups are run, from my understanding, I might be wrong here, but from talking to people that were at the startup and people that were close to the startup and associated with the startup, this is how they all work according to those people. So if I was misinformed, then hey, you can correct me. But according to them, the whole idea is to raise as much money as you can and then spend that money as fast as possible. As fast as possible, because you want to be able to go, look, investors, we used the money. We're doing things. We're building. So what does this have to do with this tweet that I just mentioned? Well, it has a lot to do with it. The people that work in the tech industry as a whole are not adding value. They really fucking aren't adding value to the wider world. Who is adding value to the world? Well, I can tell you what. I see people doing it. I see gardeners cleaning up garbage. I see gardeners going around beautifying neighborhoods. I see tile workers. I see carpenters building, literally building, taking wood and nails and screws and putting a deck together. There's been some construction going on in my neighborhood, and they are actually building, truly building, a new deck for one of my neighbors. Hey, that's building. That's doing something. And I think it is a truly incredible and wonderful thing that the people building those things, I like to think, might be listening to a podcast here or there and might go down a rabbit hole that leads to one thing or another. And before they know it, they're listening to somebody talk about Bitcoin and they're going, hey, you know what? It is nonsense that I work hard for this. I'm out here sweating. It's 80, 90, whatever, depending on what part of the country you're in, 100, 110 degrees. I'm out here busting my butt, actually doing something. I think it is a truly wonderful thing that truckers are driving around listening to podcasts, and some of them are probably buying Bitcoin. That carpenters are going around listening to podcasts, and some of them are probably buying Bitcoin. That tile layers and brick workers, masonry workers, electrical workers, all the trades, mechanics, etc., where they're working with their hands and their minds are free to do these things, like listen to podcasts, listen to audiobooks. I like to think and know for a fact that some percentage of them are getting into Bitcoin. And how much Bitcoin does somebody like that need to be in the category of wealthy? Well, let's get into that. BitPain here says, if you earn $250,000 a year, which is a pretty disgustingly high salary, that's a lot of money. In 2022, you earned about 15 Bitcoin a year. In 2024, you earn about 3.5 Bitcoin a year. Bitcoin comes at you fast. And down here, this is a very interesting tweet. I'm glad I saw this the other day when I pulled up this tweet to talk about. Connor Steffen here says, more realistic scenario, 175,000 after taxes, 4 to 5,000 a month towards rent, mortgage, food, travel, clothes, etc. Another 2,000 a month. Car payment, student loans, another $1,000. Even someone on 250,000 a year income is only taking home about half to 1 Bitcoin a year. And that's if they are actually buying Bitcoin. How many people do you think that are in that bracket are actually paying attention to Bitcoin? Not many of them. And here's why. If you don't have the eyes to see something, you cannot be taught how to look for it. People that are benefiting from the current monetary system, and I mean this as a whole, the whole economic system as it currently stands, they have no reason to look for something different. It's working really well for them. You go to your stupid, completely pointless, garbage tech job that I have about as low of opinion as anybody possibly can. You go there, you do your stupid nonsense coding, you try and grift somebody out of however many thousands, tens, hundreds, maybe millions of dollars so that you can do more dumb gobbledygook nonsense that's going to be an app that tells you the next time you need to blow dry your hair, or how many dingleberries is bad to have and how many dogs in the neighborhood might smell you because of them. Like what? The App Store and the Google Play Store is littered with so many garbage apps. It blows the mind, which brings me back around to my point about not having eyes to see something. If you're so mired in the system of going to your tech job and and you're surrounded by other people, and your idea of success is buying a Sprinter van so that you can once a summer go out and park near a lake and then post 13 different Instagram photos that you took 14 hours trying to find and take pictures of, and then blah, blah, blah. If that's your idea of a good way to spend your life and a good use of your money, boy, you got another thing coming. So my point here to all of this is that you, being somebody with the eyes to see and take an interest in this, you actually have the eyes to see this. Now, you might not have fully bought into the idea of Bitcoin. You might still be on the fence. I don't know where you're at with this, but at least you have the eyes to see. If you're this far in the video, then you're going, this guy's an idiot, and you have an opinion there. Hey, thumbs up to that. Or, hey, this guy's making some sense, or this guy's somewhere in between there, I guess. Idiot or making some sense, and whatever's between that. Half idiot, half making some sense. But if you right now are putting some amount of your money into Bitcoin, and then you just wait, that's the biggest thing here. So you got to wait. You will be eventually in the upper echelons of society in terms of economic prowess. This is the amount of Bitcoin currently in circulation, 19.6 million in circulation. Well, that's as much as been mined. How much is actually in circulation? That's another thing. But right now, if you look at this, if all of the coins in supply were available, they're not, but if they were, each person would have access, like if it was divided up evenly, would have access to 244,711 sats. How much does that cost you in mid-March? $500 would get you 2/3 of a million sats, almost 700,000 sats. Now, that's nearly 3 times the amount of an equal portion for everybody on the earth. Now, I don't know about you, but I am somewhat greedy, and I'm not interested in having an equal portion of everybody else on earth. I would like to have as many sats as I possibly can, so that when they are worth the obscene amount that I think that they actually are, then I will have an equal share in that obscene value. You see what I'm saying here? Now, at the outset of this video, I said that there was 2 things that I wanted you to think about. And these are those 2 things. And they tie together, but they are 2 separate things, actually. Thing number 1 is, what is your price? What is your price? Now, what should play into the price that you would sell at, or that you would potentially take a loan against your Bitcoin on or at, which I don't think that there are any good viable options for that right now. But I imagine there's a time in the future where that is a possibility. But I don't know of any options where you can do that right now that I would trust at all. I just don't know of them. If they exist, then hey, great. I am completely unaware of them. But the price that you need to be thinking about is, when do you do something with your Bitcoin? But what is really important to that is, what are you then going to do? Don't just have a target of, oh, when Bitcoin hits $1 million, that's when I finally sell some portion of it. I sell 10%. I have one Bitcoin, and once it hits $1 million, I'll sell 10% of my stack, and I'll have $100,000. To do what? What are you going to do with that? If you're thinking, I don't know, I just want $100,000. But why? Because once Bitcoin hits $1 million, and it's just a matter of time now, the purchasing power of the dollar will not be the same as it is today. So what you need to be thinking about is, what's the price that you want to sell at? Would you want to do something once you want to take some profit? I guess that's the best way to say it. At what point do you want to take some profit? And to do what with it? Because if you don't have an idea of what you're going to do, then the chances that you do something stupid is really high. And if you don't have an idea and you're not going, no, I want to get this thing, I can now purchase a home, I can now get the land that I want, I can get that car that I've always wanted, whatever it is. And it can be something that other people might consider frivolous, like a car. If you've always wanted this car and you're 70 years old and you're like, man, I've always wanted this car since I was a teen and now I can finally get it, I'd say that's worth it. I think that's worth it. We only have so many years on this planet, and if all of your time is spent just grinding away and you never get to enjoy any of your time here, well, then, I mean, what are you doing? And the second thing ties into this little clip that I'm going to play right here.
It's a mistake that a lot of investors make, I think, and that is to say, you've got a gain and you're feeling good about it and you think, oh, this can't last, and maybe it's overpriced now and therefore I'll sell it. I bought Microsoft in '86 when it went public, 14 times trailing, growing 40% a year. And I made, I don't know, 3 times my money on it. And I sold it for a logical reason, actually, because it was the only money I had to make a down payment on a condominium, and I wanted to own a condominium. So, but had I held on to it, it turned out it went up another 4,000x, and I missed all that. You're right. And,
wow. So you bought it at what price and you sold at what price?
Well, back then it was probably $15, but split adjusted,
wow.
It's a 6 cent. It was a 6 cent stock, and I think Microsoft today is trading at 200 and something. So
at the very beginning, he says that a mistake that investors make is that they see something good and they go, this isn't going to last. The price of Bitcoin hits 75,000. No, it can't do this. It's dumped before. I got to sell now. And then maybe not. Maybe it'll go higher. And you hang on. It's going up to 100,000. Everybody on X is saying it's going to go to 100,000. I'm going to hang on. It goes to 100. Well, now I got to sell. I have to. I'm up 5X. I'm up 10X. I bought it when it was 10. I'm up 100X. I got in when it was $1,000. I certainly didn't. I would have liked to. Whatever. I got it. I have to. Maybe you do. Maybe you do. But this is where I'd refer back to the first point. If you don't have something that you're going to do with those profits, then what are you going to do? If you have a reason and you know of something, you've been holding off, you want to wait, you've been waiting, and you want to get something, you've been using Bitcoin as a savings vehicle, then yeah, great. Hey, thumbs up. Do whatever it is that you want to do. But if you don't have a reason and you just want to take profit, really think about that. Really think about that. So, in closing, if you are one of the silent majority, one of the people that does all of the things that makes the world tick, which there's a really good chance you are. And if you're a tech person and you're doing something that's actually worthwhile, hey, thumbs up. There are some of you out there. If you're a tech person doing something that's kind of soul numbing and you're working for a startup and you're just trying to get bought out by a big company, this is my personal message to you. I was going to say something really harsh, just a straight up, but I'm not going to say that. Here's what I will say. Take a good, hard look in the mirror and ask yourself, do I really feel as though I am adding value to the world? And if not, well, maybe don't keep doing that. If you're not adding value to the world, maybe change that. And on the Bitcoin side of things, I know it might feel, if you're getting in now or you've gotten in the past 6, 12, 18 months, it can feel like you missed the boat. But boy, if there's one quote that I like a lot about Bitcoin, and I wish I knew who said this. It wasn't me. This did not originate from me. Whoever it was, I think it was on Twitter, said, being in Bitcoin is like winning the lottery in slow motion. It is. It really is. And having been in this space for 18 months, I think I got in early 2022 and bought most of my stack when it was in the 15 to 30 range. I don't know about most of it, but a good chunk of it. Feels pretty good to be up double, almost 3 times the amount in some cases. So, yeah, just hodl on. Hodl on.